The dining room always looked like it had been staged for a magazine photo shoot. Crystal glasses catching the chandelier's glow, polished cutlery lined up like soldiers, and my mother's roses arranged in a vase so perfect it looked fake. But I knew the routine by heart because I had been playing my role in it for a decade. Bianca's birthday is coming up, my mother began, as if it were a royal decree. She tapped her nails against a folder thick, gold-embossed, and heavy, with the weight of expectation. Across the table, Bianca smiled. The kind of practiced smile that came with knowing the world always bent toward her then. Without ceremony, the folder slid down the table toward me like always. Darling, you know what to do. I didn't need to open it to know what it contained. Venue options, catering contracts, theme ideas. A schedule so precise it bordered on military strategy every year. My mother and Bianca dreamt up the fantasy and I executed it flawlessly. 11 years, 11 birthdays that weren't mine. I glanced at the folder but said nothing. Dad was already scrolling on his phone. Mom was scribbling guest lists. Bianca was sipping her wine like a queen awaiting tribute. And me? I was invisible again. The irony burned in my chest. 10 years ago, when I was still naive enough to hope, I had thought maybe one of them would notice my birthday, just once, a cake, a card, a candle. But no, every year, mine came and went like it didn't exist. Sometimes I'd wake up, hopeful, only to end the night with nothing but a silent wish whispered into the dark. Meanwhile, Bianca's birthdays became legend. Champagne fountains, chocolate sculptures, live jazz bands. Guests would post photos with hashtags like #BIANCASBASH while I stood in the shadows, making sure the canapes arrived on time. And every year, my name disappeared further. Bianca leaned forward now, her eyes gleaming. This year, I want something bigger, maybe a masquerade theme, and make sure the invitations are embossed, not printed. The last time felt cheap. My hand clenched beneath the tablecloth. I thought about the showbox hidden in the back of my closet filled with scraps of my forgotten birthdays. Journals where I wrote down the candles I never blew out, the letters I never received, the plans I never made. I looked at the golden folder in front of me. 10 years of my life had been trapped in folders just like it, none of them ever mine. This time, something in me shifted. I smiled, carefully, so no one noticed the storm brewing behind it. Of course, I said softly, sliding the folder closer. But in my chest, a seed of rebellion had already been planted. This year, I wasn't going to let them forget me. This year, I would make my own. The folder sat on my desk like a brick of gold I didn't ask for. I flipped through it half-heartedly, pages of contracts, mood boards, and budget sheets. The usual circus, but instead of feeling the old sense of duty, I felt something else. This time, exhaustion, sharp and heavy. That night, after everyone was asleep, I opened my laptop. Not to book florists or caterers, but to type something I had never dared before: solo vacation rentals near the beach. The search results felt like oxygen rushing into a room I hadn't realized was suffocating me. White sand, ocean views, small villas with hammocks swinging lazily in the breeze. My fingers trembled as I clicked book now on a small bungalow in Florida. The price stung, but not as much as 10 years of invisibility had. For the first time, I had something on the calendar that belonged to me still. The family circus didn't pause. Bianca called me the next morning, her voice dripping with entitlement. Add another 20 to the guest list, and make sure the champagne is real French this time. None of that California nonsense. Got it, I said, pen hovering over a blank notepad. I didn't write a word. By lunch, Mom had joined in. We'll need custom decorations. Bianca deserves nothing less though, and darling, don't forget the pianist. We can't have silence between courses. I hummed in response, my mind already elsewhere. I was picturing myself barefoot on sand, holding a drink with a tiny umbrella. A birthday where no one called me darling like it was code for unpaid labor. The more demands they piled on, the more my rebellion grew. I started creating fake spreadsheets, phony vendor quotes, fabricated RSVP updates, a schedule that looked impressive but led nowhere, a digital smokescreen. At the same time, I began quietly packing my escape, a new sundress folded into a suitcase, a travel-sized bottle of sunscreen slipped into a drawer. I hid the airline ticket in a book on my nightstand, the one nobody ever touched. The contrast between the two worlds was almost comical. By day, I was their invisible planner, nodding at their orders. By night, I was secretly building my own birthday, one with no chandeliers, no crystal flutes, no stage-managed applause, just freedom. Rachel noticed first. She caught me smiling at my phone during lunch at work. What's got you grinning like you just robbed a bank? She teased. In a way, I whispered back, sliding my phone toward her to show the flight confirmation. Her eyes widened. Finally, you're doing something for you. I nodded, heart pounding. Saying it out loud made it real. Each day the tension built. Bianca's birthday approached like a storm. Her texts growing more frantic. The night before I left, she called. Shrieking about centerpiece colors, I muted the phone and slipped my passport into my bag. For the first time in 10 years, my plan wasn't for her, it was for me. And it was almost time to disappear. The morning of Bianca's birthday dawned with a strange calm. Sunlight filtered through my blinds, brushing over the packed suitcase by my bed. For once, the weight on my shoulders wasn't from responsibility, it was from anticipation. At 7 a.m., I wheeled my suitcase quietly down the hall, careful not to wake my parents. They thought I'd be rushing off to finalize centerpieces and coordinate delivery trucks. Instead, I hailed a cab. The driver asked, "Airport?" I smiled, heart racing. Yes, airport. By the time Bianca's guests were arriving at the grand ballroom, I was sinking into a plush first-class seat. The flight attendant handing me orange juice with a smile warmer than any birthday wish I'd ever received from my family. As the plane lifted off, I imagined the scene back home. Bianca sweeping into the ballroom in one of her designer gowns, expecting fireworks, cameras, applause, expecting me, but without me, the illusion unraveled fast. The florist never showed because I'd never booked one. The caterer delivered half portions to the wrong address. The DJ arrived hours late, confused, because the contract I drafted was a ghost. Where's Kendall? I pictured my mother hissing through clenched teeth, panic spreading across her perfectly made-up face. Guests would murmur, glancing at their watches. Bianca's smile would start to crack, the edges turning brittle. Meanwhile, at 30,000 feet, I laughed quietly to myself, a sound so foreign it startled me. It was the sound of freedom. By evening, I was on the Florida coast, stepping barefoot onto warm sand. The ocean stretched endlessly ahead, waves whispering against the shore. My friends Rachel and Michael were already waiting, arms full of snacks and cheap champagne. "Happy birthday!" finally, Rachel shouted, holding up a cupcake with a single candle. I froze for a moment, throat tightening. No one had ever said those words with such sincerity. My hands trembled as I lit the candle, the flame flickering against the pink dusk sky. "Make a wish," Michael said. For years, I had wished silently, privately, in empty rooms, but this time, with the wind in my hair and the sea at my back, I closed my eyes and whispered it aloud. I wish to never disappear again. The candle went out, smoke curling upward like a promise, somewhere hundreds of miles away. Bianca was probably in full meltdown, screaming about missing decorations and ruined reputations. I could almost hear her voice echoing through the ballroom, blaming everyone except the sister who had finally stopped playing servant. But here, in this small moment, with sand between my toes and laughter ringing in my ears, none of that mattered. For the first time in 10 years, I wasn't Bianca's shadow, I was the birthday girl. And I wasn't going back. I returned home 2 days later, sun-kissed and lighter in ways I couldn't measure. My suitcase was still dusted with Florida sand when I heard it pounding at my apartment door. When I opened it, my family spilled inside like a storm. My mother's face was pinched tight, Bianca's mascara smeared into angry streaks, and my father trailing behind, silent but fuming. "How dare you?" Bianca snapped, her voice sharp enough to slice glass. "Do you have any idea what you've done? Do you know how humiliated I was?" Her words tumbled out in frantic bursts, guests leaving early, empty tables, whispers of scandal. She was furious not because the party failed, but because for the first time, she hadn't been the center of worship. I set my suitcase by the couch and faced them, steady. My pulse hammered, but the fear that had chained me for 10 years was gone. "I know exactly what I've done," I said, voice calm but firm. I stopped erasing myself. Mom's hand flew to her chest as if I'd cursed. "Kendall, don't be dramatic. You abandoned your family." "No," I cut in, surprising even myself with the steel in my tone. "For 10 years, I abandoned myself. Every birthday I planned for Bianca, every champagne tower, every flower arrangement, I was disappearing piece by piece, and not one of you noticed." The room went still. "I never had a birthday party," I continued, my throat tightening, but my words steady. "Not once. Do you realize that? Year after year, you celebrated Bianca like royalty while I got nothing. No cake, no candle, not even a card." Bianca scoffed. "You're exaggerating." I walked to the bookshelf, pulled down the old showbox, and dropped it onto the table. They flinched as it hit. Inside were scraps, journal pages, lists of birthday wishes that never came true, receipts for decorations I bought for her parties with my own money, evidence of a decade's worth of erasure. "This is my proof," I said softly. 10 years of being invisible. For once, Bianca didn't have a retort. She just stared, wide-eyed, as if seeing me for the first time. I drew a breath, shoulders squaring. "This ends now. If you want me in this family, it will be on equal terms. I will not be your planner, your servant, or your afterthought." Either we rebuild with respect or I walk away. The silence was deafening. Mom opened her mouth, then closed it. Dad shifted uncomfortably. Bianca's lip trembled, but no words came finally. I walked to the door and opened it. You can go. Now, think about what I said. One by one, they filed out. Anger softened into something closer to shame when the door shut. The quiet filled the room like music. I stood alone, trembling but free. For the first time in 10 years, the power was mine, and I wasn't giving it back. 1 year later, my living room looked nothing like the grand ballrooms I used to decorate. No chandeliers, no crystal centerpieces, no guest lists printed on gold. Instead, there were streamers taped lopsided across the wall, fairy lights strung clumsily around the windows, and a coffee table crowded with mismatched cupcakes. And yet it was perfect. Happy birthday, Kendall, my friend shouted as I walked in, Rachel nearly knocking the cake out of her own hands in her excitement. Michael popped a confetti cannon that sprayed tiny stars all over the carpet. I laughed until my stomach hurt, brushing glitter from my hair. It was small, simple, and entirely mine. I lit a candle on the cake and closed my eyes, remembering last year's wish on a Florida beach. I wished to never disappear again, and I hadn't. In the months since I stood up to my family, everything had shifted. I started therapy, where I learned that setting boundaries wasn't cruelty, it was survival. I threw myself into my career, earning a promotion that once felt out of reach. Most importantly, I began surrounding myself with people who celebrated me, not for what I could do for them, but for who I was. The family, of course, didn't transform overnight. Mom still struggled, often slipping into her old habits of directing and controlling, but slowly, small changes began to show. A card arrived on my birthday this year, handwritten, awkward, but real. Dad called me just to ask how work was going. And Bianca, well, she was still Bianca. But even she had sent a hesitant text that morning. Happy birthday, sis, maybe dinner soon? I hadn't answered yet. I wasn't sure if I was ready. But the fact that she reached out at all was new. A crack in the fortress. As I blew out the candle, I thought about how far I'd come. A year ago, I was still trapped in a cycle of silence, giving myself away until there was nothing left. Today, I stood in a room filled with laughter, glitter on the floor, frosting on my cheek, and a heart that finally felt whole. Later that night, as my friends drifted home, I cleaned up the mess with a smile. Every crumb, every stray balloon string, every piece of confetti felt like proof I was no longer invisible. Before bed, I placed the showbox back on the shelf, the old journals, the forgotten birthday lists, the receipts. They no longer stung like they once did. They were just reminders of a girl who had been silenced but found her voice. And this time, I added something new to the box, a photo of me and Rachel, arms wrapped around each other, both of us laughing in front of my lopsided decorations, evidence, at last, of a birthday that belonged to me. I turned off the light, whispering softly into the quiet, happy birthday, Kendall, and for once, the words didn't feel like a wish, they felt like the truth.